I think I finally figured out what I want to do with this channel. And the funny thing is, I think part of the reason it's taken me so long is because I kept thinking I needed to figure out what this channel was supposed to be. What is the niche? What am I going to talk about? Am I going back to hair? Am I going back to sewing? Is this a lifestyle channel? Is it a blog channel? And I think I finally landed on maybe it doesn't need to be any of those things. Maybe this can just be Lula at home. A place where every once in a while I check in, because this channel has actually been around for a very long time. Long before it was called Lula at Home, it was called Pitter Pattering with Shaneka. And when I started it, my life looked very different. My children were still relatively young. I didn't have a lot of money. There weren't a lot of things I could just go out and do when I needed an outlet. But I had clothes. My job required that I dress a certain way. And I also just liked getting dressed. I liked doing my hair. I knew how to sew, and YouTube gave me somewhere to play with all of that. And looking back at it now, I think Pitter Pattering was also my little discovery engine for all of my coulda-shoulda-wouldas. All those things you thought you might do when you're younger, but life just went another way. At one point when I was young, I thought about going to cosmetology school, and that never happened. So years later, playing around with my hair, trying different styles, and sharing what I was doing online gave me a chance to explore a little piece of that. And what I discovered was I really like fooling around with my own hair, but I don't like or didn't want to do anybody else's, right? And that was actually useful information, and the same thing kind of happened with my sewing. My great-grandmother, Miss Lou, the namesake of this channel and much as I've become in recent years, taught me how to sew when I was young. And there was a time when I imagined, becoming a fashion designer. I had these ideas about designing clothes and moving overseas and having this completely different life, and that didn't happen either. But I did sew a lot, and sometimes I used patterns. Sometimes I would just figure things out and make something from scratch, and I shared a lot of it here. People learn things from me, and I learned things from other people, and I had a good time. And I want to emphasize that because I don't look back at any of that and think, well, it was a waste of time because I didn't become a hairstylist or because I didn't become a fashion designer. Not at all, right? I got to experience pieces of those lives, and eventually I learned something that I probably couldn't have learned just by sitting around wondering about them. I like those things, but they actually weren't me. Or maybe more accurately, they weren't where I was going. And with hindsight, I can also see that some of those dreams came from a version of me that had spent a very long time trying to make a way out of no way. What can I do? What can I turn into something? What skill can become an opportunity? What door can I create if nobody opens one? And I don't regret that woman at all. She hustled and got me here today. But I don't have to keep turning every single thing I enjoy into a possible career at this point. And that's one of the things I've learned. Now somewhere along the way, I also made what I consider one of my more annoying YouTube decisions. The more videos I made, the better I got at making them back in the day. I got a better camera, got some lighting, improved my angles, my advanced, my sewing got better, my techniques. And what had happened was I started looking at those older videos thinking, oh, I can do this so much better now. And I took them down. I took them down. And at the time, I took them down with the mindset that I was going to redo them, right? Because now I had a better camera, better instructions, better process, better everything. And then life happened. One of those things was I went back to school, take my degrees, and my attention just moved somewhere else. And those new and improved videos never got made. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, YouTube really started taking off. So, I kick myself all the time. Perfect timing on my part, I say sarcastically. So the channel just kind of died. Not literally. Obviously, we're sitting here now, but I stopped building it. And over the years, I've gone back and forth about what I should do with it, because I knew I didn't want to recreate Pitter Pattering exactly as it had been. And if you've been a long time subscriber, you can see like the random videos of random things here and there that I've posted. And the reason for that is the reality is that I have changed. My interests have changed. My life has changed, and I've started realizing that maybe the mistake was thinking the channel needed to stay the same when it actually didn't. Because I'm interested in I'm in a very interesting season of my life right now, I'll say like that. I used to say all the time that I was different, even when I was growing up, I was never a crowd follower. I didn't think like everybody else. I was outside the box, as they say. And as I've gotten older and become much more self-aware, I have realized that I was not outside the box. I was actually still very much in it. But I was just standing way over near the edge of it. But now, I've not only got out of the box, but I've smashed that box out. I lit that box on fire. I burned that box to ash, and I have thrown the ashes in the ocean. There's no more box. And strangely enough, my hair is one of the simplest examples of what I mean. And I'm gonna put some photos here. And one of my latest videos prior to this one was a video about an undercut I had been wearing about 4 years and how tired I was of it. And I actually posted a wig video and I was going to grow it back out. I was going to keep you posted on how the wig do and how my growth journey was and all that type of thing. And well, as you can see from the pictures, it didn't quite work like that. Very quickly, I realized the limitations I have been putting on myself, and not just with the haircut, but that was an outward example. How automatically in my mind, the alternative to being tired of that haircut was to simply just grow my hair back out. From short hair to long hair, right? Those are the only options. And you put a wig on during the in-between period. And it just didn't take me long to realize I don't want long hair. I didn't want the heat, and I didn't want the maintenance. And probably more important, I've already done that. I've had long hair for a very long time. I've had relaxed hair. I've had natural hair, which my hair still is now. I've had the undercut. My hair has been so many colors. So I got to thinking, why did the next thing automatically have to be the opposite of the last thing? Why couldn't it just be something I've never done before? And that question is becoming a much bigger question in my life. Why does the next thing have to be one of the choices that I already know? Why can't I do something I haven't done before? Try something I've never tried before. Go somewhere I haven't been. watch something I never thought I would watch. Star Trek has entered the chat. Boldly go where no man has gone before. I'm just much more interested these days in discovering things than I am in proving that I already know who I am. And I don't even know what I would call this quote, new me. You always hear the saying, new year, new me. I think I'm more interested in a new year, original me, getting closer to whoever I was underneath all the things I thought I had to be. All the practical decisions, all of the survival decisions, all of the expectations, all of the roles, all the things you absorb because somebody somewhere decided this is what a woman does. This is what somebody your age does. This is what success looks like. This is what your hair should look like. And this is what your life should look like. Right? And I'm questioning all of that now. Not because everything traditional is bad and not because everything different is automatically better either. But just because I finally understand that I'm allowed to ask, do I actually want this? And if I don't, what do I want instead? I think that's probably what this channel is going to become. Little check-ins from that process. I'm not promising you a video every week. I'm not promising you a video every month. I have enough things in my life with schedules attached to them. And I don't need Lula at home to turn into another obligation. But when I have something worth sharing, I will definitely come here to share it. It could be hair. It could be clothes. It might be something I'm doing around my house. And it might be me trying something I've never done before. It also might be one of these conversations where I've been thinking about something and decide somebody else might be thinking about it too. And every once in a while, you may actually see me moving around and doing things in real time, but most definitely not all the time. And that's another thing that's changed for me. I'm much more protective of my energy now, and I'm much more protective of my presence. I don't feel like having an online presence to the point where I feel like I have to give the entire internet unlimited access to me, right? I don't feel like that's what having an online presence means to me anymore. And I really don't think that's really what it was meant to be for anyone. There are parts of my life I want to keep sacred, and there are parts of my life I want to keep for myself and the people actually in my life. And I think I can still come here and connect with people without putting a camera in front of my face every time, I make a cup of coffee. So this is Lula at home, at least for now. And maybe that's another thing I'm learning. For now is enough. I don't have to decide what this channel is going to look like 5 years from now. I just have to let it reflect where I am now. And if you're somewhere around the same stage of life where you're looking at things you used to believe about yourself and saying, wait, is that actually still true? Or maybe we'll have some things to talk about, right? Maybe we can share our situations and move forward together. Maybe we're not reinventing ourselves at all. That's something we need to consider. Maybe we're finally getting old enough, experienced enough, and comfortable enough to become recognizable to ourselves. And I'm interested in seeing what that looks like, and I hope you are too. So I'll check in again when I have something to say, and if you are interested in other sides of what I do, I have 2 more focus spaces as well. I have the Lula Starling Experience where I talk about my books and creativity writing and the author journey. And I also have a channel called The Intentional Operator. And that's where I talk about business, work, entrepreneurship, money, and building a life and business more deliberately. But here, this is home. And so we're just going to see what happens.